Hello, I'm the Analyst, and I'm here to talk about some of Hollywood's biggest box office flops. You know, you've got a lot of World War II films, Vietnam War films, some Civil War films, and plenty of fictional wars, but there's only one true American film about the Korean War. MASH doesn't count, as that didn't really deal with the war itself, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Inchon was a 1982 war film detailing Douglas MacArthur's amphibious landing at Inchon in 1950 and was actually funded by a church. The Unification Church, a religious movement started by Sun Myung Moon, is primarily focused in Christianity, with elements also from other Asian religions. However, the church is not without its share of controversies, especially for anti-Semitism and supposed brainwashing. Moon and the church would ultimately front the entire production budget, with the film's intentions to spread the Lord's message. Before this was a war film, Moon was uncertain as to what would be made, also considering biopics of Jesus and Elvis Presley. Gee, an Elvis-based Christian film? No way that ever happens! In 1978, though, psychic Jean Dixon told Moon that the spirit of Douglas MacArthur endorsed the production, and on went Inchon. The film was directed by Terrence Young, who's best known for directing 3 of the first 4 James Bond films, with the screenplay being written by Laird Koenig, and the late Robin Moore, best known for his books about the U.S. Special Forces. Moore also wrote the story with Paul Savage, best known for writing episodes of Gunsmoke and Laramie. Inchon stars acclaimed actor Laurence Olivier as General Douglas MacArthur, and in interviews stated the only reason he did it was money, dear boy, as he netted $1 million for the role. Young also recalled later on that whenever it was time to film, the ailing Olivier always livened up. Also starring in Inchon were David Janssen in his final film role, as he died during production, as journalist David F. Park, with his colleague Peter Longfellow being portrayed by film critic Rex Reed. Ben Gazzara portrayed military liaison Major Frank Halsworth, his wife Barbara being portrayed by Jacqueline Bisset, and Richard Roundtree as Sergeant Henderson, another soldier. Additionally, newcomer Karen Kahn portrayed Frank's mistress, with her father being portrayed by regarded Japanese actor Toshiro Mifune. Looking at the beginning, there's a disclaimer that says that this isn't a documentary, but a dramatized study with plenty of artistic licenses. And oh boy, there are a lot of artistic licenses. As the credits roll, the North Koreans invade and proceed to begin a rampage of violence and destruction. Okay, I know there were plenty of war crimes perpetrated during the war, but I'm certain that the North Koreans weren't that bloodthirsty. In fact, the South Korean and American forces committed many of the more heinous acts. Also, look at the tanks. I know this was made during the Cold War period, but those are obviously American tanks with North Korean flags attached. As well, I'm pretty sure one of the guns used by the North Koreans is the British Sten submachine gun, which somehow found its way into North Korean hands. Of course, it's more likely that this is meant to be a stand-in for the more common in North Korea Japanese Type 100 submachine gun, of which ammo isn't quite as common for. The film does accurately portray the South Koreans as frightened and panicking, given they had less experience and equipment. compared to the North, which had Soviet full-on backing, whilst the US initially only had limited involvement at the time. News quickly spreads to Major Halsworth and his Korean mistress, and Halsworth is told to flee as the North Koreans are hunting down Americans. This is more or less true. Halsworth ultimately goes with his fellow soldier Sergeant Henderson to support the South Korean forces.
One time? Negative. Pick one of them up, we'll have all of Korea on our necks.
But he does try to leave a gun with the mistress's father, who rejects it.
All those hours we talked together about the Buddhism, about the non-violence.
As for his wife, Barbara, she is with many refugees being chauffeured by another man when the North Koreans attack the group with planes, killing many, including the driver, though, amazingly enough, the car is still intact. Also, notice the terrible effects. It's clear these are just model planes with strings attached. The original Star Wars came out 5 years prior, cost a quarter of what it took to make Inchon, and its special effects still hold up today. There's simply no excuse. As she gets into the driver's seat to drive herself, safety, 5 orphans also get into the car with her, and she gets saddled with driving with safety.
Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?
Elsewhere, about 19 minutes in, we're finally getting to the top-billed General MacArthur, who's been promised to deliver a press conference.
Korea, the United States ambassador and the U.S. military advisors requested help from Washington. General Douglas MacArthur will hold a press conference in 2 hours.
But he's not there. Also, here we see our journalists, and they're here to talk about General MacArthur's backstory.
The best we've got, Phil.
Goes right here. Most gifted general the U.S. ever produced. 22 medals, 13 for heroism.
Well, at least he's not superstitious.
Who was his father, as if right now I care?
General Arthur MacArthur. They called him the boy general of the Union Army.
Hey. Now, it seems a long time ago that General MacArthur's regiment had...
General MacArthur, meanwhile, speaking to his wife.
A long way away, it would seem.
The president still doesn't know?
Saturday night in the States, and Truman's at home in Independence, Missouri. So, soldier, I've been trying to reach Halsworth. Put him on! You remember Frank? Used to be my driver.
And the film portrays him as the supposed savior of South Korea.
Who you fooling? If there's anybody going to save this world, you know it just has to be you.
Wait, look! Take a look at him! He looks nothing like the real General MacArthur! Even Laurence Olivier admitted that in the film. He looks nothing like MacArthur. Not to mention himself. After 2.5 hours in the makeup chair. Also, he seems to have some concerns about his age, seeing how he was pushing 70 at the time.
Jean, you don't think I'm too old?
You ask a silly question, you'll get a silly answer.
I don't think I'm too old, but other people will.
Since when did you ever care what other people thought about you?
And is also referred to during the film as the Hand of God.
As the Hand of God.
As Halsworth and Henderson head towards Seoul, they stop to bring a woman about to get married to her fiancé to the Seoul train station.
Mira.
Back in North Korea, the North Koreans, they have lots of South Koreans in camps as volunteers, which admittedly did happen.
우리의 대명분을 모욕하고 무시한 그런 자들은 제치하시오.
Executing the dissenters.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116,
Barbara and lots of refugees are on a bridge heading towards Seoul when tanks attack it, trying to take it. Wait, if you need the bridge, why the hell are you firing on it? To keep the North Koreans from taking the bridge and reaching Seoul, the US and South Korean forces destroy the bridge, causing countless deaths. In real life, this did happen, and it is great seeing some of history recreated, regardless of how morbid it is. This instant, the Hangang Bridge bombing, saw the South Korean army blow up the bridge in an attempt to stop the North Koreans, killing somewhere between 500 and 1,000 civilians. The official estimate is around 800, though there are some issues in the recreation. In the film, it appears as if the bridge is being destroyed in the daytime, when in actuality, it was destroyed at 2:30 a.m. Plus, there were no tanks firing on the bridge, and there was no warning to the people on the bridge. Of course, no bridge bombing can stop Barbara from driving the orphans to safety. Shooting a North Korean soldier along the way before her car stalls. And who helps her out? Sergeant Henderson, who just so happens to run into her.
Damn, that's hot.
Is it fixable?
Yeah, just good old American know-how.
What are the odds? He fixes her engine. And she gets the orphans to the UN safe zone.
Come on, you little rat.
MacArthur arrives in Korea. And plots the UN counterattack. An amphibious landing at Inchon, which is deemed so impossible, MacArthur claims it'll work.
Admiral Doyle is right when he says the invasion of Inchon is impossible. It is. Utterly impossible. And that is why it is going to succeed.
They scheduled the invasion as soon as possible, and on that night, Halsworth, who is based on the man actually involved, Eugene Clark, and Henderson would activate the lighthouse and disable the mines with local support to allow the UN ships to land. First, they take out the mines by pushing them close together so that their proximity would trigger the bomb. But in reality, they were destroyed by destroyer gunfire. Anyway, they went on for the lighthouse, initially managing to turn it on, but the North Koreans shoot it out and kill Halsworth's mistress. As time runs out, MacArthur is pressed to cancel.
General, you promised. If the lights didn't go on, you promised you'd cancel.
I shall keep my word.
And when it seems all is lost, the general has a message prepped stating his failure.
To send a message to the president,
All
as
delivered in Lord
Commander-in-Chief,
Olivier's most robotic
it is
tone.
with sadness and regret that the operations at Inchon are to be called off as at this moment.
Before the message is sent, though, the lighthouse is back on and the invasion can commence.
They did it! It's working! It's working!
With MacArthur saying he deliberately stalled for time to ensure Halsworth could succeed.
A little help. Of course, I took as long as I could dictating.
No excuse for that poor performance, Lawrence. The invasion succeeds and the North Koreans are driven back. The South Korean leader congratulates MacArthur and he then recites the Lord's Prayer for some reason.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses,
followed by
as
actual
we
footage of
forgive
MacArthur,
those
which shows just
who
how awful Olivier
trespass
was with the
against us.
voice.
Barrack ballads of that day,
And lead us not into
which proclaimed most proudly that old soldiers never die. They just fade away. And like the old soldier of that ballad, I now close my military career and just
with a message saying that North Korea lost at a great approach. Even though the war never officially ended, and it's still at a stalemate. Also, where the hell did the Lord's Prayer come in? I know that the Unification Church wanted to hammer in a religious message, but there simply wasn't enough build-up to justify it outside of various offhand remarks.
God help him, whoever it is they pick. And right as with God, and he will not let us.
That was Inchon, everybody, and man did it suck. The acting's poor, the effects horrible, the writing sloppy, the history inaccurate, and the pacing broken. There is both too much and too little going on at the same time, with the final product just being dull. In fact, the Department of Defense originally pledged their support for the film, but after learning of Moon's involvement and the film's quality, they asked not to be mentioned. Not that the filmmakers complied with that. The Unification Church pumped in $46 million to produce Inchon, ballooning from its original $18 million budget after plenty of filming issues arose, with Moon personally financing an $11 million promotional campaign, with press junkets talking about many mystical claims about the film, such as the fact MacArthur's spirit supported the film, despite the film not doing him any justice whatsoever. The world premiere drew protesters, and a year later at Cannes, nobody had any interest in the film, though MGM did eventually acquire distribution, and an edited version was released stateside on September 17, 1982. Inchon opened in 4th place with $2.3 million behind the 15th weekend of E.T., the 8th weekend of An Officer and a Gentleman, and the 6th weekend of Pink Floyd The Wall. It fell a steep 55% the following weekend, which was rare in the 80s, and made just $5.2 million at the box office. After theaters take their cut of the gross, MGM would see back just $2.8 million, or around a fourth of Moon's ad spend, losing everything else. Inchon's reputation hasn't improved since. It currently holds 0% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with not even the Washington Times, a newspaper that Moon owned, giving it a positive review. And the film would go on to win for Worst Picture, Director, Actor, and Screenplay. In his autobiography, which was released in 2009, Moon never mentioned the film, showing just how badly it did, with Inchon also never receiving a home media release. Theatrically, Inchon's estimated loss comes out to $54.2 million, which might not be that bad in modern times, but remember, that was in 1982 dollars. In today's dollars, the loss would be 2.6 times that. Thanks for watching, press the like button, and be sure to subscribe. 4 Golden Raspberry Awards